What if a single chemistry teacher could build a criminal empire worth $80 million? And the only reason it worked was because nobody below him knew who was really in charge.
Ionic bonds, chapter 6.
Breaking Bad isn't just a story about Walter White. It's a masterclass in how drug empires actually function. A machine with layers. Every layer has a job, a risk, and a price to pay. Today we're going level by level, from the bottom of the food chain all the way to the top. And trust me, the higher you go, the colder it gets. On the surface, Walter White's operation looked like a small-time drug deal in the New Mexico desert. A beat-up RV, a former student, a desperate man with nothing to lose. But what Breaking Bad slowly reveals is one of the most accurate depictions of how a drug supply chain actually works. From the guy on the corner who doesn't even know your name, all the way to the cartel executive who's never touched a single bag in his life. 6 levels, 6 completely different worlds. Let's break them all down. Level 1, the street guys, Skinny Pete, Badger, and the corner boys. At the very bottom, you've got guys like Skinny Pete and Badger. Jesse's friends. They show up in season 1 trying to move product in Albuquerque. No car, no plan, no backup. But here's the problem. Street guys are the most exposed people in the entire operation. They handle the product, they talk to strangers, and they're the first ones the DEA sees.
Speed limit. We've got about 3 hours to get this thing down south.
They know almost nothing about who's above them. By design, this leads to a brutal reality. Street guys get arrested, robbed, or killed, while the people at the top sleep comfortably. When Emilio and Crazy 8 get taken out in episode 1, that's literally the natural life cycle of a level 1 dealer. This is important because loyalty at this level is almost meaningless. You are replaceable. You are expendable. The empire needs you, but it doesn't care about you. In reality, most street-level dealers earn less per hour than minimum wage. The risk is enormous. The reward is almost nothing. But the street guys aren't the most vulnerable people here. That title belongs to the ones actually making the product. Level 2, the chemists, Walter and Jesse and the cook. Walter White doesn't start at the top. He starts in a rolling meth lab with no air conditioning and no exit strategy.
Like a doom buggy. And that way we can just doom buggy her.
The chemist is the engine of the empire. Without the product, nothing else exists. But here's the problem. The cook is also a massive liability. They know exactly what they're producing, where, and how. That makes them dangerous once they're no longer useful. This leads to one of the show's most chilling reveals. Gus builds the super lab and brings in Gail Bidisher as a replacement cook. Walter realizes the plan immediately. Learn the formula, then eliminate the original chemist. This is important because even your irreplaceable skill has a shelf life. The moment someone else can do what you do, you become a loose end, not an asset. What makes Walter dangerous is that he refuses to accept that. He doesn't just want to cook, he wants ownership. And that ambition is what starts pushing him up the ladder. But the product still needs to move, and that requires a whole invisible network most people never think about. Level 3, the supply chain, Saul, Mike, and the network. Between the cook and the street, there's an entire invisible layer. Saul Goodman launders money through his law office.
$275,000 worth of risk?
Mike Ehrmantraut runs security and logistics. Dealers operate under strict protocols. No phones, no names, no improvisation. But here's the problem. This is where the most technical heat lives. The DEA doesn't care about the corner boy. They want to trace the money, follow the supply, and find the infrastructure. This leads to one of the most important scenes in the series. Hank traces the distribution network through a single tracking device on a barrel of chemicals. One crack in the supply chain, and the whole structure becomes visible. This is important because the middle of an empire is actually its most fragile point. What if Gus had never gotten sloppy with the methylamine supply? The operation could have run indefinitely. The biggest empires don't fall from the top. They collapse in the middle. But none of this works without someone giving the orders. And that's where the real power and the real danger begins. Level 4, Heisenberg, the domestic kingpin. By season 4, Walter White has become something else entirely. He's Heisenberg, a name that carries weight, fear, and respect. He runs the operation. He makes the calls. But here's the problem. Heisenberg is still technically under Gus. And Gus doesn't tolerate partners. He tolerates employees. Walter's pride won't survive that arrangement for long. This leads to the most audacious move in the whole series. Walter manipulates and ultimately destroys Gus Fring, not with muscle, but with chess. He uses Jesse's emotions, Gus's blind spots, and Hector Salamanca's hatred to build a bomb in a nursing home. Brilliant, terrifying, cold. This is important because Heisenberg represents what a domestic kingpin actually is. Someone who controls geography, product quality, and violence, without ever pulling a trigger personally. The most dangerous criminals are often the quietest ones in the room. Walter doesn't look like a kingpin, and that's exactly why he was one. But even Heisenberg had bosses, and those bosses operated where the rules of ordinary crime simply didn't apply. Level 5, the regional directors, Gus Fring and the cartel interface. Gustavo Fring operates in plain sight, a fast food franchise owner, a man who donates to the DEA's charity dinner and shakes the hands of the agents hunting him.
You are done.
But here's the problem. Gus exists in constant negotiation between the cartel and his own ambitions. He needs the Salamanca supply chain, but he despises them. This leads to the cartel dinner scene, where Gus poisons every senior cartel figure in one room, including Don Eladio, while surviving the same poison himself. A plan 20 years in the making. Revenge served ice cold. This is important because regional directors like Gus aren't just criminals. They are executives. They think in decades, not deals. Their power comes from systems, not violence. What if Gus had never let his vendetta against the cartel drive a business decision? He might never have been exposed. Ego is the enemy at every level of power. And yet, above even Gus, there's a level where violence is even more casual, because the power is absolute. Level 6, the cartel's top, Don Eladio and the Untouchables. At the very top, you have Don Eladio. He doesn't move product. He doesn't manage logistics. He simply decides who is allowed to exist in his world. The cartel at this level is a government, a shadow state with its own economy, army, and foreign policy. Every street corner dealer, every cook, every distributor, all just infrastructure for men like Don Eladio, who never once get their hands dirty. And yet, they die in a pool just like everyone else. No level of power makes you immune to someone patient enough and angry enough to wait for the right moment. Every level of this empire thought they had control. The street guys thought loyalty would protect them. The chemists thought their skills made them untouchable. The kingpins thought their intelligence put them above consequence. They were all wrong. Breaking Bad shows us that a criminal empire isn't a pyramid of power. It's a pyramid of risk. The higher you climb, the further you have to fall. Walter White didn't beat the system. He became it. And that's why, in the end, he lost everything that ever actually mattered.